Check, check. Once again, hello, and welcome to this Residents' Assembly meeting. It's essentially a general meeting. Residents' Assembly meeting refers to its role within the decision-making process. So this is step one in the Auroville decision-making process, and the decision that you're being introduced to today is the new RAS mandate. So the RAS is the Residents' Assembly Service. Some of you may be aware of what the Residents' Assembly Service does. Their mandate is very limited. It describes, the official mandate essentially says organize tea and biscuits for general meetings. But their scope of work has widened dramatically, and they're now deeply involved in the way we make decisions in the community. So they're a critical agency. They gather the community together, and they facilitate the process whereby your inputs or our inputs as a community then lead to meaningful decisions. And these decisions are more important today than they ever were. So this process is very important, and we thank you for being part of it. So what's going to happen today is Peter is going to, so I've been asked to comment on the fact that the Residents' Assembly Service, which is organizing this meeting, and organizes all general meetings, is today organizing a general meeting about itself. So it's an RAS meeting about the RAS, and they wanted me just to comment on it. Hello, welcome, come in, come in. There's cushions there and a chair if you want to sit down, make yourself at home. So they asked me just to comment on the fact that there is possible, some might perceive there being some conflict of interest, and they've asked me to reassure you that this meeting is being organized as impartially and as objectively as they organize any other meeting, and that there's absolutely no influence whatsoever. So that's where we are. Okay, so I've introduced that. Okay, so the process here is to present you with the proposed new mandate, the old mandate, the new mandate, and then we're going to invite your feedback through a question and answer process. I think, oh right, I've been asked to comment on the fact that there are also people watching this event online. Franklin, do we have any? 15 people. We've got 15 people watching this event online, and they're going to participate in the question and answer. Hi guys, watching from home or wherever you are around the world, Mount Everest, Kilimanjaro. Welcome to the meeting. So when we get to the question and answer section of the meeting, the online participants will also be able to send their questions. And Franklin, one of the RAS's hot new trainees, is going to send the messages to me by WhatsApp. Ooh, technology. And I will read those questions out, and hopefully we'll address them here in the room. Okay, so I think that's everything I need to say in the beginning. I think it's also worth acknowledging that we have some amazing ikebana. We have this beautiful flower and candle assembly here in the middle. We have this amazing, lovely tropical palm arrangement here in the stairwell. When you come up the stairs, there's quite a spectacular little fluffy kind of cat's tail thing. And then in the foyer, when you enter downstairs, there's also an absolute work of art of ikebana. And this is all done by the wonderful Paula, who is also now one of the hot new trainees at the RAS. So you've got a super augmented RAS 2.0 coming up soon, suffused with ikebana magic. All right, so enough of that. I would now like to welcome to the stage one of the key figures in the Residents' Assembly Service. Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Peter.
Thank you, Jesse, as always. So just to say, welcome everybody, but also that we have 3 new trial members. Franklin at the back, if you want to put your hand up. Paula, most of you will know, and Vignesh, who are doing the registration. And a shout out to Tatiana, who holds the RAS very deeply, is unfortunately away right now. In the last general meeting, Suyan mentioned that it's thin at the top, and sometimes we feel it. So there's always a welcome for more input. Welcome all the new people too. I think that was it. Just welcome the new. We have 3 trial people, and their trial period is ending in a month or so. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give a little overview. Martin, if you could put closer. Okay. Tell me if you can't hear properly. So you're going to see the process both for today and for going on. So here we are. This is us right now, RAM 1, where we're going to introduce the topic and invite feedback. I'll just take you through the whole process, but just to remember, this is where we are. This will lead to a RAM 2. Once we've integrated feedback, that will come in the next slide. If you can go to the next one, please.
So this RAM 2 will be a revised proposal?
Yes. Yeah.
With feedback incorporated from RAM 1?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get question and answers. There's going to be paper and pens outside on your way out where you registered, so you can give it old school paper. You can send an email. You'll also be getting a MailChimp email where you can send your feedback directly to the RAS who collate it and send it to the AVC. We don't do anything with the feedback. The council will say a little bit more about that. Eventually, it will end up in voting and an RAD. If you can go on to the next one, please, Martin. And yeah, we'll have an RAD, a residence assembly. So, just a reminder, this is us today. We are here. Yeah. And after this meeting, sort of jumping ahead, but just to give you an overview of the whole process, we're going to invite feedback. We'll publish a meeting report. Martin will talk later, and Lucas, about the feedback, how it's integrated, and how long it takes. Next one, please. And then there'll be a call for RAM 2. Do you want me to mention the timing now, or will you mention it? Yeah. Residence Assembly meeting. Yeah. And then there'll be a revised proposal, and the voting options will be defined. And that's it. So that's the overview of the RAM process and the RAD process. Thank you very much, and now back to Jesse.
Please put your hands together for Peter's wonderful presentation. Nothing wrong with thanking Amanda. Well, that was great. I love this kind of "you are here" map. Yeah, I feel very located within the process. Yeah, we can squeeze people in here if you want to sit in there. Maybe she doesn't want to sit there. Okay, so just briefly, the proposal, the new mandate is being presented to you today. The council is going to give you a bit more information about that. You're going to get a chance to ask questions today, and then you'll be given the opportunity to provide feedback on how the mandate could be improved or adjusted or modified based on your experience and your perspective, and then all that feedback will be processed by council into creating a revised, improved version of the mandate, which then will go to another general meeting, and at that general meeting, if there are no serious objections, it will then go to a decision. So this is the first general meeting where your feedback is being invited. So now to talk about the existing and proposed new mandate, I welcome to the stage two members of the new Auroville Council, Martin and Lucas.
Thank you, Jesse. Hi, Martin. Do you want to sit there, or? So I'll be mainly presenting today. Yes. Sure. That is a question for the RAS, but should be done, definitely. Sorry about that. Yeah. Definitely. This is about being inclusive, so yeah, definitely should be happening. Yeah.
it could have slipped between the cracks with Tatiana's absence. She's sending us things from Russia, but quite busy. But apologies from us. We'll definitely do it the next time. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mana.
Okay, so the new RAS mandate. So let us start by maybe introducing what the RAS is. So it stands for the Resident Assembly Service. Maybe what is the I would start by talking about the foundation. I think it's important to understand that we have three bodies, that build that foundation, and the Resident Assembly is one of those bodies, and it's very important to remember, especially in those days. Okay, and we have also the International Advisory Council and the Governing Board, and it is necessary for the RA, the Resident Assembly, to have a kind of body like the RAS, in order to help voice the residents, in order to help bridge many different things like we're going to see today. So just a small little quote from Kir Joshi, which was a chairman of the Auroville Foundation from 1999 to 2004. And all the three are equal authorities, implying these three bodies. And what will be the relationship between these three organizations, three bodies? The relationship is that of mutuality. Can you, next slide, please. Okay, so the RAS is a key facilitator of Auroville's collective organization. The purpose is to support the community of Auroville to organize itself towards its highest potential. Right? The RAS was created to assist the Resident Assembly to formulate and arrive at decisions via the community's decision-making process, which we know as RID. The RAS manages this process and reinforces through communication campaigns using MailChimps, designed to ensure that residents are aware of the issues involved in a particular community decision and the importance of their role in Auroville's collaborative processes. So they're here to remind us how things work, and they're supposed to be assisting you in that process. Can you go to the next slide, please? And if you have a question, you keep it till the end, please. Thank you. So it's an ever-evolving service, right? And this is why we have this today. Things are slightly changing, and we're trying to make it match, be relevant. The broad goal is to enable the widest possible participation of residents in the creation of Auroville. It supports the collective to embody the Auroville Charter and the dream by fostering trust and unity. We have a growing population, and we need to be able to include all these different voices, and that's not easy. And we have different ways of going about this, and this is the challenge. Over the past few years, the role of RAS has expanded significantly, and it aspires to meet the needs of the community, to bridge the working groups and resident assembly, and to tailor all procedures related to the RA decision-making in the most inclusive way. Okay, so it makes it easier for residents to participate in community decisions. It facilitates the working group selection process. It facilitates discussion of community issues in general meeting. It helps residents to stay in touch. And it offers communication support to residents and working groups. I'll give you, if you want to read in between. But this is done through community meeting, like the one we have today. It's a virtual meeting. We're on YouTube Live, and it's also physical. And that is at the request of you guys, the residents, and the working groups. There is also a mass mailing system, MailChimps, which has been used to communicate to you today. We have also a website, and we're trying to make information more easily accessible so that we can make informed decisions. Okay, can we go next slide? So the RAS is increasingly employing traditional and modern communication tools to engage the largest possible number of residents in community decision-making processes. From old school posters and flyers and word of mouth to the range of online platforms and collaborative IT solutions. At present, the service uses mass broadcast mail techniques, interactive online discussion spaces and surveys, and its mission to raise residents' awareness on key issues and decisions that have the potential to affect our lives, we the residents. The service enables the community residents and working groups to easily assemble meetings to discuss issues that are important to us. Can go to the next slide. So the key shifts. We went from organizing meetings to empowering residents, from rigid procedures to adaptable processes, from record keeping to information accessibility. Next slide. So the 2007 mandate was focusing mainly on meetings, called and organize resident assembly meetings, ensure clear agenda and proper notice periods, so that you guys are aware a few weeks in advance, possible. Voting procedures, where a detailed process for in-person written voting, vote counting, and results announcements, all these were inlands described there. There was a documentation of recording and archiving meeting minutes, maintaining voting records, important. Communication, publishing agendas, results, and community media. Communicating decisions to relevant authorities. Can you go to the next slide? But what was missing in this 2007 mandate? It had a limited scope. It focused primarily on logistical aspects of meetings and voting. It lacked a broader vision for RAS role in Auroville's governance. There was no explicit emphasis on empowering residents or fostering participation, limited to facilitating meeting rather than promoting active engagement. There was no clear statement of RAS independence from other working groups. There was a rigid structure with little flexibility to adapt to new community needs. No provision for supporting other participatory processes beyond meetings. It lacked a clear process for selecting RAS members. No specified criteria for membership or term limits. No mention of collaboration with other groups like the Auroville Council. Limited interaction with other aspects of Auroville's governance. Basic archiving of meeting records and voting results. No provision for comprehensive information repository access to residents. Now, the 2024 has an expanded role. Empower residents through a platform for their voices, assist residents in finding appropriate forums to address concerns, convene communities' decision-making processes, organize and facilitate general meetings. I think that's very important. It's not just about decision-making, it's also about general meetings. Information management, collecting, archiving, and organizing all RA-related documents. Maintaining an online repository accessible to residents. Collaboration and independence. Working closely with Auroville Council. Maintaining independence from working group. Assisting in communication between working groups and resident assembly. Assisting and facilitating new processes or events as required. Supporting studies of the functioning of the resident assembly. Clear criteria and process for selecting RAS members, specified term limits and trial periods for new members. Details of voting process for RA decision-making processes, now part of a separate RAD policy document. Okay, in summary, it has a broader scope, an expanded role beyond just meeting facilitation, active involvement in various community processes, resident empowerment, explicit focus on providing a platform for residents to be heard, support for diverse participatory processes, clear statement of independence from other groups, commitment to maintaining an unbiased stand, flexibility to assist with new processes as needed, ongoing evaluation of effectiveness and efficiency, creation and maintenance of an online repository, improved accessibility of information for residents, close collaboration with Auroville Council, and a better facilitation of communication between groups and residents. In conclusion, the 2024 mandate represents a significant evolution in RAS role. It reflects Auroville's growth towards a more participatory and transparent governance, aligns more closely with Auroville's vision of unity and collective progress. Thank you. There's a tiny bit more, just if we can. I feel like it's a short one, and it's worth reading, because I feel like nobody's doing their homework these days, so, you know, just to be sure. We have quite... All right. It is the unity of all in the solidarity of the common manifestation that will allow the creation of the new and divine world upon the earth. Each will bring his part, but no part will be complete except as a power in the solidarity of the whole. Sri Aurobindo. The role of the Resident Assembly Service is to empower the Auroville residents by providing a platform for them to be heard and to support the Resident Assembly in fulfilling its functions, as detailed in the Auroville Foundation Act 1988. The Residents' Assembly shall appoint or remove members of the Residents' Assembly Service via a ratified method of its choosing in accordance with the RAS policy. The RAS performs all functions attributed to it by the community to provide a service for information, communication, and coordination that enables well-informed collective decisions to be made by implementing processes ratified by the Residents' Assembly. RAS is directly answerable to the Residents' Assembly alone and is independent of the working groups and services and upholds an unbiased stand. The Auroville Council works in close collaboration with the RAS to realize the functions of the Auroville Council's mandate and ensures that Residents' Assembly processes are held fairly. RAS collects, archives, organizes, and records all documents related to the Residents' Assembly participatory processes, such as selection processes, decision-making processes, petitions. RAS also maintains an online repository accessible to the Auroville residents, containing all relevant documents. In particular, the work of the RAS is, but not limited to, the following: assist residents in finding the appropriate forums, mediums, working groups, facilitators to address their concerns and questions, assist the community and or the Auroville Council in the participative work and studies of the functioning of the Residents' Assembly, convene the community's decision-making processes, assisting those initiating them with organizing the events without interfering with the content, assist in data collection and or analysis relevant to the functioning of the RA, surveys, proposals, and feedback, assist the Residents' Assembly in their communication with the working groups, assist the working groups in their communications with the Residents' Assembly such as sharing announcements and meeting reports in a timely manner. Assist in the organization of selection processes as defined in the relevant policies. Assist and facilitate new processes or events which support the RA's functioning as required. Organize and facilitate general meetings for the residents, regardless of whether decisions are to be taken or not. RAS policy. RAS is constituted by a minimum of 3 and up to 5 members in its team by the ratified method below. Selection process for members. The Auroville Council makes a call to the community mentioning the criteria for appointment. The council interviews the applicants and makes a selection from the applications received. Those selected are announced to the community for feedback. If any adverse feedback is received and reviewed, the applicants are interviewed again, and the council makes a final decision. The majority of RAS members should preferably be residents for at least 5 years. RAS members must not be members of any other working group. There will be a 3-month trial period for new members. RAS may call additional resource persons as needed. RAS members should give 1 month's notice before resignation. In case of resignation or ending of a member's term, a new member may be appointed at any time by the ratified method as described in point 2. Meet with the working groups regularly and with other groups as required for information sharing and to discuss relevant topics. To have regular meetings with the Auroville Council to evaluate the effectiveness, efficiency of processes, meetings, facilitation, logistic. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Sorry, thank you, Lucas and Martin. Is that the presentation in its entirety? Okay, good, super. All right, so now we have a question and answer session. Anybody have any questions? Oh, sorry, that was the mandate, right? You just presented the proposed new mandate? That's what you're, okay. So yes, questions. I'll bring you the mic.
Is the duration of the members, I don't see for how long, but what is the maximum time people can do the job?
Is there a term?
Is there a term?
Martin, do you want to respond to that?
I'm going to have to look at the... I don't see it either, actually. So sorry about that.
But does there need to be one? Do we need a limited... Is it...
Sure.
Is it necessary?
I mean, Tatiana's been doing it for some time, so
it would be a pity
we very much value her experience. So, but look, if this is for feedback. So, if anybody wants to send us feedback saying no, there must be a 5-year or a 2-year or whatever it is, then let us know.
Yes, exactly.
At the moment, we've had sufficient turnover of RAS members to have a good number of people taking part. It's worked so far.
Okay, great. So if you feel that a term is necessary...
Can I just
yep, sure.
Can I just make a small comment? We're not expecting all the feedback to come today from the meeting. Anybody that has feedback that they want to give, there will be a form sent out for you to give feedback. So don't worry if you don't get what you've... The opportunity is there, and we will have, and this is something that wasn't said before, there will be a 2-week feedback period, after which the council will integrate the feedback that they received as best they can. And in the next meeting, we will present not only the new result of that feedback, also the revised mandate, but also we will give some indication of how that feedback was managed and how we some people perhaps might say, "Oh, we didn't get our feedback included," but you know, we'll make a presentation to show how it was incorporated.
Okay, great. Any other questions? So just to quickly summarize, if you feel, for example, that there needs to be a term, a limited time that a RAS member can occupy a seat in the RAS, then include that in your feedback. And if you think there should be no term, then also include that in your feedback. And if you think there should be a term, specify how long. These details are very useful. Okay, sorry, who's next? Fred?
I think there should be a recall clause that member
what? Sorry, a what?
A recall clause.
A recall.
If
what does that mean?
If a member is truly disqualifying himself, there should be a process of how he can be removed as a member of the RAS.
Oh, I see. So if a member of the RAS is not satisfied, the community is not satisfied, process whereby they can be removed.
There has to be not on a bagatelle, but on a serious issues. There should be another group which can then decide that he is not any longer qualified.
Okay, great.
And another one, number 2, I don't quite understand when it says RAS members must not be members. What does that mean?
Not be members of other working groups, I think.
I don't know. There can be, but there don't have to be. Is that what it says?
So we need to clarify. They cannot be.
There should not be.
Yeah. We would like it if they were not.
I don't see that limitation. Why would that be? I mean, there can be, but there don't have to be. Why can there not be members? And
well, for example, if council is making decisions about RAS membership, then it does create a conflict of interest if you're a member of council and also a member of RAS.
Not council. I'm not saying it may be a member of the forest group.
Okay, right. So then you could specify which groups they shouldn't be a part of.
No. It does not have to be, but could be a member of any other working groups. Why are we restricting that?
I think you want to have a wider participation from the community rather than people who are already part of groups. Then it's good, but we can tap into people who are not part of any groups, and so in a way this would restrict that. But I guess it's open to debate.
That's what the unclarity is. When it said must be, must not be, cannot be. Does it say cannot be? Does it mean cannot be? I think that's a self-restriction which I don't understand.
Any more questions?
Why is the Auroville Council selecting the candidates? So how does the community participate in this selection?
Well, the way we did it, you want to answer, Martin? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's actually been like that since the beginning, and it's worked actually really well. We wanted to not to have a full selection process. In other words, to put them through the whole process, which is very time-consuming. But actually, it has worked well. What the council does is they interview each person. Bear in mind that there aren't huge numbers of people wanting to do this. It's in fact, it's quite difficult to get members. So the people who have been interviewed by the council then announce to the community. The community gives feedback. That's then feedback is considered by the council seriously. And if there are serious feedback that against that person, then of course the council wouldn't want to accept that person to move forward. So, but it hasn't happened so far. So I think we can show from our history that this works.
And the community can also register its objection by saying they don't approve of someone. Yes.
I just wanted to add that in the last few years, this has been slightly different because since this situation that we find ourselves in has kind of came to a head a few years ago, there have been joint meetings every week with representatives of Working Committee, Council, TDC, FAMC when there still was an FAMC of the RA, and a couple of other representatives. And so the last few times that people have been added to the RAS, the call has gone out jointly by the Council and Working Committee, and then the interviews have also been done jointly, and the final decisions have been made jointly and announced. So that's how it's been happening the last few times that members have been added. RAS members, yeah.
I have 2 questions. One is a very small one about recalling, a recall clause for members. Is there not a provision that, applies to all the working groups about recalling members, and that could be automatically then also be valid for this RAS? I'm not sure. Answers the question.
Okay. I can answer that actually, because there is a new method of doing that proposed for a new PWG. Now, at the moment, the PWG doesn't include the RAS, but it's quite possible that it could be included in some way. Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my second question, my other question.
Can people talk a little bit clearer, because here at the back we can't hear anything what is being said. Thank you.
Can you hear now? Okay, okay. Thank you. My other question is, so far, many of the functions that are defined now as being of the RAS, I think have been basically carried mostly by council. Whenever we had issues, most of those issues somehow ended up at the council. Could you define a bit with some clarity specific functions that will now be shifting from the council to the RAS, just for more clarity?
I think, I mean, we have a mandate. We have a mandate there. I think this is something which has yet to be worked out between the RAS and the council. So the RAS meet the council regularly, and where there is, and that's for a good purpose, because there is an overlap of responsibilities between the council and the RAS. And I think it would be unfair to define that too sharply, otherwise we'd likely to get in a battle with the RAS as to who does what. No, I think it's that will come out as time goes by.
It's a fluid relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Isn't the first decision we have to take the change from service to working group or something like that? Because the RAS until now is a service, how I understood, like financial service, resident service, yeah. And then the change to a working group should be done how?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I'm not so keen on these sharp distinctions between a service and a. As far as I'm not so keen on having these sharp distinctions between a service and a working group. Working groups are serving the community, so we're services also. So I'm not sure that we can make that statement. I don't think it's a.
Is there an
particularly
important
relevant.
difference?
Yeah, is there an important difference? I don't know. That's the question.
I don't see it from a service to a working group. I agree that the sharp distinctions aren't really necessary. The main thing to remember, I feel, about the Residents' Assembly service is that it is not a decision-making body. So this is what's important. Whatever you call it doesn't really matter. It's a service, like we all are offering our service in different ways, but it's not a decision-making body. It facilitates. And I mean, sorry, Jesse, don't go far. And it's, I mean, you could kind of look at it as a secretariat for the Residents' Assembly. It facilitates conversations, it facilitates communication, it facilitates coming together, it facilitates processes for us to make decisions, to choose the representatives that we want to have in different bodies.
Yeah, I think this is really important that we look at, we understand that the RAS does not make decisions. There was some confusion and accusations being made at the RAS at a certain point that they were influencing decisions. I don't think they were, but but we must make sure that they don't. And this mandate actually makes that quite clear, I think.
Okay, so to clarify, that's not an aspect of this decision. You're not choosing between a service and a working group. You're examining the description of how the organization functions. Sorry, right.
I read somewhere in all these pages that the RAS would be independent of other groups, working groups. So it's sort of married to the council, right? Is there anywhere a clause that if the two would have really serious different opinions, the council would always overrule, or can there be a process of discussions, or is that too finicky?
It's not a sort of direct answer, but just to say that working with Tatiana for the last year, she is very, very strong on RAS independence from other groups. And as an example, this meeting was postponed because it was announced by the council rather than by the RAS. So she's very, very particular about this, and we're learning that. So but we have a strong relationship with the council.
Absolutely, yes. You're right.
Please make that as some feedback. Give us that feedback
Yes,
it's important. We'll try and integrate something.
It is exactly. When it comes to a disagreement, should the council have the ability to override the RAS, or should the RAS have the right to remain an independent entity? It's critical feedback to supply. Who is waiting?
I have 2 points. I think the independence of the RAS is important, and personally I would feel more comfortable if it remains with the name service rather than working group, because there it is kind of equating the other working group. Yeah? So I would really feel better to keep the service thing. Another point is, I'm wondering if there is no decision being made by the Resident Assembly Service, because if you say that the Resident Assembly Service receives feedback and decide what to keep, how to keep, and so on, and give back the information to the community, is it not a decision?
As far as I know, I don't deal with this side, but as far as I know, there's no editing done of the feedback. It's sent in total to the council without any choice. Oh, no, okay. Sorry if I misunderstood.
All right, I'll just stop you right there. The feedback is being processed by council, not RAS.
Yeah, it's not, the RAS does not process feedback. The RAS would pass it on to whichever group was putting forward that proposal. In this case, it's the council that's putting forward the proposal, and we will be dealing with that feedback and presenting it back to the community. So no, and I've been through this process before, and I can assure you that the RAS has never edited any feedback that's been given to it. It's always been passed directly on to the person writing the proposal.
Can we just check with Franklin whether we have any questions from our online? Sorry, what? Nope. Okay, great. You guys there happy at home? Wonderful. Up on Mount Kilimanjaro. It's windy, isn't it? Okay. Who's waiting to speak? Here we go.
Okay. Personally, I feel a little bit a vertige.
Sorry, you feel what? What do you feel?
Vertige. Vertigo.
Vertigo. Right. Okay. You feel dizzy because of the height.
Yeah, we've been submerged by 5-6 sheets of paper that, for me, they express the same thing on different words. It's very difficult to follow. What I see is the only difference as an ex-member of RAS. What I see is the main difference is the RAS will be able to call a resident assembly without being a resident assembly RAD, where we take decision. Okay, so that's a good point, because the RAS was stuck into this mission of calling RAD. Now you can call RAS. And I'm a little bit surprised that after 6 months of silence, we are here tonight to discuss about little point concerning the RAS, and I don't know what situation we are in Auroville. What are we doing discussing like that here? Okay, is there any point tonight that we can discuss about the RS that there will be resident assembly meeting soon? There will be agenda that talk about the very main problem that we suffer in Auroville. You know, I don't want to discredit your work, but you know.
Yeah, let me apologize straight away. Yeah, look, the RAS is largely the new mandate represents what the RAS has been doing over the last several years. In a large part, what we're trying to do is to formalize that and write it into a policy so that we can the RAS can be a group which is recognized for what it does. That's what we're not basically changing anything by this. And as I said earlier, I apologize that we're bringing everybody here for that purpose, but I think it also serves the purpose of emphasizing the importance of the RAS and its work with the community, and indeed the community's work. I think it's really important that everybody recognizes that.
Just briefly, sorry, go on. In my experience working in the RS years ago, with this very limited mandate, people would come to us and say, how dare you do this? It's not in your mandate. Although it was critically, obviously something that needed to be done. And so it was used as a way of undermining the RAS. And so what the mandate does is empower the RAS to continue to do the work it's doing. Yes.
But Robert, I think that just to say one more time, the RAS does not make decisions. So it's not their, this is why they don't call the meetings. They don't decide when to call a meeting and on what topic to call a meeting. If 60 residents sign a petition or a request for a general meeting on a particular topic, RAS will facilitate it. They will help with the communication. They will help with the logistics. They'll help with taking notes and keeping track of what was said. But they don't, by themselves, decide to call a general meeting. If a working group, the reason why there haven't been general meetings recently is because no group of residents has asked them to organize a general meeting, and no working group has asked them to organize a meeting. We had many, many, many for a long time, and now we've had a period of time where we haven't had very many. Again, it's not the RAS as a body, it's not their role to decide when to have a general meeting, when not, or what topic.
I was just wondering, because that was a limitation a bit of the RAS, and maybe its role as being the ear of the residents' assembly as a service, it could perhaps bring up issues in general meetings that it feels is a malaise in the community, or something that needs to be addressed, that doesn't necessarily have 60 people ask for a decision-making thing, but something that needs to be brought up. I would actually like it if they had some ability and freedom to do that.
Great, excellent. So just quickly to remind you that all of these brilliant ideas should be sent as feedback. It is being recorded. We have our incredible, we've got Rajiv there, and I'm not quite sure of the name of the gentleman behind the camera, but it is all being recorded. So none of what you say today is disappearing. Okay.
On the same line, I had a thought after hearing Robert. What if an RAS member has an idea that it wants to be discussed in the community? So are they forbidden to propose it, or is there a way for them to bring it out? Just to be. So naturally, I think they should speak to their friends, and if they have 60 signatures, they should not be forbidden to start something like that if they feel it is necessary.
If my understanding of the decision-making policy is that any resident can call a general meeting on any topic.
Could it be as simple as me saying, I'm speaking in a personal capacity here, not as an RAS member?
I just wanted to remind those of us, those of you who were here a few years ago when Inge was part of the RAS. RAS had become very proactive, and they really, I think what is in the mandate now, she actually embodied, probably without having specifically being mandated to do it. They had ideas, they organized meetings, they were very, very proactive in facilitating that kind of community exchange and discussion. And of course you were there, sorry. So yeah, as Natasha just reminded.
I just fade into the background.
I think just, Inge was just standing out because she would stand in the middle of the room and speak for her, that's all.
So I might have missed this because I'm late, but don't we have legal consequences? Is the RAS mentioned in any of the acts and agreements and all that kind of? Why are we now suddenly jumping on this? Is this the same or similar to the exit group that needed to be, don't need to go further? No. I mean, what is the, why now? Because you rocked the boat. Sure. And I'm just saying, when you get your hair cut, you sit still. No?
Maybe you do.
No.
It pays. It shows it.
Yeah, why now? Because it's out of date. The present mandate is grossly out of date. It deals only with decision-making processes, and it's not allowing the RAS to do its job properly. It's really restricting the RAS's job. And what's more, as I said earlier, the RAS has already been doing all of this for some time, and it needs to be regularized. There's nothing particularly controversial in what we do, what we've written in the new mandate. It's something which is it's a support for the residents, and surely that's what's really needed these days. The residents need their voice, and the RAS is there to provide a voice, or to help to provide a voice for the residents. So I think it's important.
It's also long overdue. I mean, we were talking about it back when I was in the RAS, but there were so many general meetings that this one was always on the back burner. And I think now, like Shally said, there's a kind of dearth, like an absence of lots of topics, and so there's space now for the RAS to address. Sorry, I think Fred was first, and then you.
Shally, go first.
I just wanted to give an additional response to Joel's question, which is that there was a need community-wise, internally, but since you mentioned and you asked the question, is it related to anything as far as legalities? And yes, it is in a way, because the RAS is responsible for helping the RA to make decisions. And there's a certain process for these decisions, for decision making. And these documents, the results, the reports of these decision making processes and the outcomes and the attendance or the participation, the number of participation are all in the courts. And so lawyers do want to know that these processes are defined and that there are approved documents, approved mandates, and approved processes approved by the RA that they can use in the court. And in fact, the RAS, because as I said before, it can be seen kind of as a secretariat for the RA as a whole, this is something that the lawyers can explain in the courts as far as the role of the RAS. So in that sense, it's also important to align the actual functioning with what the document, the policy, or the mandate.
Yeah, this this adds a bit one more aspect to what Shally is saying. He speaks about the court, but I also feel when the act was conceived, there were pointed out there are big gaps which have not been clarified. And at that time, when the act was conceived, it was said, no, let this gap be there. When the time comes, they will clarify itself. The clarification has now gone through a round of 3 years falsifying these gaps or misusing the fact that there are lacunas in the act. But I think we could, as a community, say we have to become more answerable to outside questions, even question of goodwill. How do you function? And the RAS is really the bottom of the pyramid, gathering the voices of the community. You say that they have no discriminatory powers. They just are postmen. I find that, let it be as it is. I think we also have to move on. For example, when Martin says, well, that's the way it has been done, in effect, I think we are coming to a point that everything which smells new, which is something different, which something tries again a new experiment, should be fostered and provided, and everything which just stands there, because this was the way it has functioned, is already questionable whether, because basically we don't want to slip back into what was. And therefore we have to have the courage and the novelty to encourage new, fresh ideas. And that I think the RAS can just by spirit, not necessarily by being discriminatory, by spirit encourage.
So it's just a bit past 6. I'm wondering how much more do we want to continue? How much longer do we want to continue this question? Shall we take a few more questions and then wrap it up? Is that okay with everyone, or do we want to continue for another half an hour?
Whatever.
A few more questions and then, yep, okay. Take it away.
It's not a question. It's on what Fred just said on novelty. I mean, during these past years, we have been shaken upside down, whatever. And one thing that we do not mention is the novelty of the meeting. Because this is, as far as I can see, it's something new. where you put the working committee, the council, the TDC. There was the FMC, it was mentioned earlier. But this is new, and for example, speaking of the RAS, I have seen, I was present when we had some bada.
Mike, maybe? No, looks like it's fine. Okay.
And the RAS was in contact, and we were discussing it between the groups. It was major. I think the battery must be...
Try this one.
Well, anyway, let's make it short. But I saw that there was this kind of a spontaneous interaction between the various groups and the RAS, who was in contact with us because we were talking of organizing RAM, RAD, whatever it was, presentations and all that. So there was something very active, and it was feeling good. It was feeling good. And we shouldn't, I agree with you, Fred, we should not be afraid of something new coming like that. I mean, if you remember some 2 years ago, we had these meetings about divine anarchy, all these things, because something was trying to call for a certain novelty, but that would give ample scope for expressing ourselves. But yeah, I don't know if you guys can make something out of that, but that's what I feel.
We have a question. No, sorry, were you done? My apologies. So what, 2 more questions? Who else is waiting to speak?
I'm not sure if in all those pages I missed it or it's not mentioned, but I think we should be aware of if there is the role of this body to collect votes from the whole community. We have to deal with the issue of that people are afraid to vote, and that part of that whole process of voting, many people choose not to participate because they are afraid that they are not anonymous. And I think it should be very, very clearly stated in all those pages that a very important role is to safeguard the anonymity. And that people should be more aware of that is also actually taking place. Because I think we are losing a lot of votes, and we have lost a lot of votes in the last couple of years, especially with all that is going on because of this issue.
Yeah, it's completely anonymous, as far as I know. There's some tech thing when you do it online, you click the button and it. Tatiana can explain it, but it becomes a, yeah.
It should be very clearly mentioned because it's a statement also to the community that I feel many people need to hear.
Yeah. We go to great lengths to keep it anonymous.
That needs to go into feedback. Okay, last question. No?
You want to comment on it?
Also wanted to say something?
No, actually, it is true what has been said, that people is afraid, but the last few years we had an increasing number of people voting. Before 3-4 years back, we had 100-200 people vote. Sometimes it was difficult to reach the quorum of 10%, and the participation has increased a lot since we have this crisis. But it's true that is not enough. We have to do a lot more. That is true, and then maybe, as you rightly say, emphasizing the fact that there is privacy, the people who vote are not disclosed, is an important factor. I would also like to say that this argument has been used against us in the past, because some arguments say, because we don't know who is voted, you are not open to verification. And that's, that's been an argument that's been used in a very important thing, and that's why the role of our resident assembly service is important, because we always argued that It's true, we protect the privacy of the people who vote, but the people who are voting are certified by the Resident Assembly Service through a strict process that is taking place. So that's why giving some kind of legal framework, legal status to resident service is important, because it's the agency that certifies with vote, and is a tool that allows us to go for decision making by vote, by protecting the privacy of the people.
And to add to this issue of people not participating, I want to just remind people that the Resident Assembly Service was under great pressure in the early part of this problem that we're having, this takeover, to release the names of the people that voted, and they didn't do it. So that's already been done. And then I came across some statistics that I wanted to share in comparison to the populations in Auroville. I want to say the Dutch vote the best. The amount of Dutch people, all the Dutch vote. And I have to say, the Indian population vote the least. Statistics only, no names.
Do we want to clarify that, or shall we begin to wrap up this Q&A session? What? Who's speaking? No, okay. First, can we all say thank you to Carl Sang for creating such a beautiful... Thank you. Okay, so for the sake of argument, I'll say we've all the questions. The question and answer session is complete, unless someone has a burning question that needs to. But no, exactly, I won't open that door. So any remaining suggestions, inputs, ideas, send them via feedback. Peter is going to, the RAS, excuse me, Peter on behalf of the RAS is going to send out via MailChimp a form through which you'll be able to, sorry, Tatiana, okay, we'll send out a form that you will be able to then offer your feedback through. So you'll have 2 weeks after this meeting.
There's paper as well, and we're going to do a pulse in a minute, if you can say. There's paper where you registered. You can also write things down.
Okay, we're almost done. So now we're going to take a pulse, which is a recent, it's been added to the RAS since my time, and it is essentially a broad consensus exercise. So what we do at this point is we say, does anybody strongly object to the process and the proposal as it's been presented so far? Are there any strong objections? Okay, let the record show that there were no strong objections to the process so far. So the pulse places us in that position. Yes, exactly. So now you can go on to the feedback stage. You're now encouraged to participate in the online feedback process, which will be facilitated by the RAS with a form that they're going to email to you.
The timing is you have 2 weeks, but try and do it as soon as possible to send it in. And we will be sending anyway ahead of time to the council.
Thank you very much. All right, boys and girls, we are almost done here. As is customary, we're going to end with a moment of silence. Oh, please, sorry.
We've already thanked Carl Sang. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Auroville Radio for live streaming and everybody who's watching. And can I just finish the thanks? Yeah. There are, everyone in the RS, the Parla, Vignesh, Franklin, and the council, they did a lot of work behind the scenes. Yeah, Rajiv. And to Jesse for stepping in only last week to facilitate. Okay, thank you. So once the feedback is in, well, maybe the council should answer that.
Yeah, it will depend on the feedback that we get. We have 2-week feedback period, and we need some time to integrate that feedback. Now, it depends on the feedback that you all give, as to how long it takes us to integrate that feedback. But normally another week should be enough, so we will plan a meeting in about 3 to 4 weeks' time, the next meeting. What that meeting will do is basically, as we saw at the beginning, which will essentially, we will present the new mandate as according to with all the feedback in it, and there will be a similar pulse as to whether we can go then to a vote. And then there will be a vote. So that's the process that we'll be going through.
I just want to take 2 minutes to thank having been part of the team of the RS, to thank Tatiana, because for years I see her working very, very hard for all the residents of Auroville. So thank you, Tatiana.
Just want to add, Robert, now we can organize a new general meeting. Now this is a process, okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, I got 2 mics now. Just before we wrap up, Carl just asked me to mention to you that tomorrow there is going to be a talk by a writer, a poet, and an activist. He is talking about, let's see, studied literature, philosophy. Let's see, I'm not quite sure what exactly he's talking about, but can you give me a summary of what he's going to be presenting?
So tomorrow we are inviting one of our Tibetan activists. His name is Tenzin Zindin, and he's going to talk about Indian Himalayas and Tibet, basically a history. So we are all welcome at 5:30 in the same hall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before we go, can we just have a moment of silence, and then we can all head off. Thank you.